Welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance, Lowe, and Seth Hicks, your secret weapon to protect your assets and never have to start over financially again. Vance and Seth help high net worth individuals, families, business owners, and investors structure an asset-protected, tax-free fortress for their families. Learn how to keep what you earn and use the velocity of money to create your own private banking system. Join us on this journey as we explore the secret strategies of the rich and political elite and help you take total control of your financial security. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Seth Hicks and Vance Lowe. Vance, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to continue on with what we're trying to build for people who want a better advantage for the use of their money and for wealth accumulation.
We're going to jump right in today. I think we've been talking for a while about the 100-year family bank and how to implement those things. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our complete roadmap that we bring to folks and have them engage in, and some of the phases and steps that we go through. One of the first fundamental cornerstones, I think, is understanding goals and why people want to implement private banking strategies. We've talked about before, it accomplishes so many different things. It's like a financial toolbox, or heard others refer to it as a Swiss Army knife, and it can accomplish so many different aspects. So first thing we dig into is what tool fits for these folks.
Yeah, and we have to start from the ground floor, or a design, which is a blueprint. And folks, if you've gone through life, sometimes if you work for a company, just depending, things are pretty much laid out. And the end results is quite predictable because there was a design, there was an actual blueprint, there was an actual plan put into place to cause that to happen. And if you look back in your lives and you see opportunity to grow because it didn't work out the way you wanted, financial failure somewhere, it just didn't work. Was there a plan to begin with? Were all the rules, were all the things followed for success that to keep us on this, what we call road of success? Or did we try to make shortcut, take something out, do this or do that? The whole process, it's not about being an idea, Seth. It's much more than that. It's a complete designed strategy. It's not strictly a concept of something that's still ambiguous. It's a blueprint. I'm here. I want to go here. And to get there, I need things happening in my life along the way. So how do we structure that? How do we put that together? So we have to have the blueprint. We have to then build the structure that will fit it according to the way that we want to go. The strategies that we employ is this toolbox. There's so many options that you can go. We're all unique individuals. Our households are totally unique. They're not cookie cutter, even though government would like that. They're not. They're specialized, they're individualized, and we all have our own separate motivations, things we like, things we don't like. And so they have to be structured accordingly and operated within the framework that we like. So that's another issue. Once it's structured, how do we govern it, so to speak? How do you actually operate things to the checkpoints? I can tell you years ago when we had the money management agency that we did and we managed assets, we would do our projections annually in a 5-year look and a 10-year look. And we always move forward. Every year we would do a retreat to put that structure back together. Where are we? What happened? What did we learn from the positives? What did we learn from the negatives? And then we actually structured the next year, the next 5 years out, always had current stuff projected out forward. And we see this breakdown with clients. If we're not prepared, if we don't know exactly what to do, if we don't understand it correctly, in the heat of battle, what are we going to turn to? And if we're trying to learn a new concept, especially how money works, how we put it to work, how we get flow of money back, how it's not about interest rates, and yet we've got all this stuff, life's happening, all these issues thrown in our face, back and forth, we tend to fall back to what we know. We tend to fall back to what was comfortable and the framework of that governance, that situation starts to deteriorate.
We often say you have to begin to think like a banker, and a part of thinking like a banker, having the strategies set in place. A banker doesn't make emotional decisions in making loans. They have a set criteria, they have a set standard operating procedure, and they implement those procedures to think like a banker.
You said it perfectly. They're the very best industry in understanding money and the flow of money is banking. They do a lot of structure right. Don't get me talking about fracturing because that's where things screw up in the banking world. But you're right on. Everything is structured. The president of the bank can't just think one day, you know what, I need to borrow $10,000. So I'm just going to reach in the hopper and take $10,000 out and, write a note to myself or, that I owe it back. That's not going to work, is it, Seth? It has to be structured. There's a committee, there's a loan process. Everything is proceduralized and you follow it to a T. The good thing about our structure is we don't have so much of that structure, but we never want to make the mistake that we don't have structure. We have to follow it religiously. Yeah, these are all the things that we need to put into play to put the banking equation back in our life, Seth.
Let's talk about some of the things that you walk people through in developing the family bank. Where do you start with folks? We talked a little bit about goals, and that's obviously having them understand how to use what they've got in front of them to meet their goals.
Yeah, the first thing I think we do is we find out where they are. Where's the money? What's coming into their control? What's going out of their control? How is that different from what they see or what they want? And so once we identify that, most people are not happy, with the way things are going. That's because they're working on someone else's criteria. A lot of times we call that the herd mentality, but that's also our banking mentality for everyone out there today. So once we identify where they're at, we want to identify where they want to go. And that's their goals. I want to retire. I want this. I want that. And once we understand that, then we have to legitimize it. And I don't know if people really understand what that means. It means that, okay, I'm 60 years old. I want to retire at 65 and I want a $10,000 a month income. And my assets and retirement, Social Security is going to be able to provide half of that. Well, $10,000 is not realistic. It's not going to happen. Okay. First of all, retirement it's a government organized program to take you out of producing when money doesn't go out of production. Money always has to exchange in order to be of value. So why on earth would we want one part to be completely unproductive and yet try to get the most production possible out of our money? So it needs to be a lifestyle change. We get realistic goals. We help people understand, look, this is where you're at. This is what you can expect. But the fantastic news is that once we understand where a person is and their goals and what the objective is going to be, how to put that money to work properly. Wake it up. Get it out of those asleep accounts. Folks, if you've got accounts out there that you think you're in the market, you think you're in 401ks, IRAs, and your money's working for you, you are sadly mistaken. That is a myth. That is a herd mentality myth, thinking we're doing everything right, when in fact, you're doing everything wrong. You couldn't be doing it more wrong. In other words, you're 180 degrees off.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel like you are generating a lot of revenue, but are not moving forward as fast as you would like? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
To wake up an account, you have to control it. You have to put it to work. Prove me wrong, folks, if what I'm saying here, your money is asleep. If you've got a CD, if you've got a mutual fund, who has your money? You don't. Therefore, it's not working for you. It's working for the people who have your money. The banks, they're taking your money, they're putting it to work, and they're getting great production. they're doubling that money. I'm saying every 2.5 to 5 years. On the average, how much of that are you getting? Because you're not working it, you're just the investor. You have to sit on the sidelines with your hands tied, hoping that they'll give you a fair share, and they'll never give you a fair share. They give you what they can get away with, and you have to take all the risk. So we help people in that window, once we're organized, to put their money to work the most efficient way possible. And we've seen consistently over the last 20 years that I've actually just dedicated myself to this, a doubling of their banking value on the average every 5 years. That first 5 years is critical. You get everything online, you get your organization, you put the structure together, you start working the system, you see what you can build in that first 5 years. And if it doubles, it will double every 5 years or sooner.
Yeah, we talk about this in our book. We've authored Secrets the Banks Don't Want You to Know. And we talk about compounding growth. And actually, as you continue to exercise the compounding growth principles, you'll see in the illustrations the life insurance companies issue at the end of that 30-year term, we're doubling pretty much every year.
Yeah, it's amazing once you understand money and understand what's called velocity of money, the volume of control, volume of return, which is money coming back in your control. Those are the hot issues you need to concern yourself with, not the interest rates. Interest rates are there. They have a small purpose, but it isn't the accumulation of wealth. Okay. It's a risk equalization factor. That's what interest rates are. Okay. So if you learn what money is and how it works, you can put it to work. Okay. Herd mentality knows nothing about it. The financial planning industry knows nothing about it. I'm going to step on some toes here because that's the group that think they know everything about money. They don't have a clue.
One of the key tools that you use to prove out the methodology is the 8-year analysis. Tell folks what that is and how that does the math and how to walk this out.
Yeah, we actually prove it to you, to the people that are excited, that think this strategy may help them. We actually set it up for them to take a test drive, and we show them month by month what occurs, what has to happen, where the money is employed to, how we get volume of return back, how we then start taking that money that we've used once back in our hands and then use it again over and over again, and how that simply works. Seth, one of the things I really enjoy, and I just have a passion for this work because it works for everybody. If I remember, if I'm not too busy, when a new client will come in and they're listing all their debt out and the resources, their assets, I asked them, how long do you think it's going to take you, to pay all this debt off? I've had what I would consider very wealthy people break down and start crying in my offices, saying, I'm never going to get out of debt. Or them shaking their head saying, I've got a 30-year mortgage. It's going to take me at least 30 years for that. I'm always going to be in debt. And then I smile at them and tell them, if I can show you a way you can get yourself out of debt faster, do I get the difference? So it's amazing, folks. It doesn't add up the way you've done it in the past. But you don't have to put more money here. You don't have to sacrifice over here. You don't have to take great risk. All we have to do is change who ends up with the money at the end of the day. And it's simple. And you can't do it without putting the banking equation in your life. You have to understand what that bank structure is. You have to be the bank, and you have to immediately put your money to work. And that money starts revolving. It works, it does its thing, it gets credit for what it's used for, and ownership, whatever else, paying off a debt. Now we've got that credit, and the dollar comes back to us to pay off more debt. And all of a sudden, you're going to see how fast you're going to own your mortgages, all of your credit card debt, your student loans, everything out there. We actually have a podcast on, I call him Mr. Crypto, who thought that they were going to have to file bankruptcy, and how fast they were able to get completely out of debt without changing their expense cash flow, really. I'm excited about this, folks. This works, and we can show you up front before you even commit.
If this is making sense to you guys and you want to learn more, go to our website at privatebankingstrategies.com, privatebankingstrategies.com, and there you'll find the book that we've mentioned, Secrets the Banks Don't Want You to Know, that will help you increase your wealth. And put your name and your email in, and the book will be available to you instantly in either audio or PDF format. And more importantly, you're going to get a calendar link invite in the emails that come to you to access Vance's calendar so that he can take you on the 8-year analysis journey. And he walks through that with you. But at the end of that, you'll have a step-by-step roadmap for exactly how to operate your private bank and where your wealth trajectory will be after 8 years of implementing that. Vance, did I leave anything out about that exploratory call process?
No, we're not going to leave you high and dry. When it comes time to actually implementing and working it, we're halfway. We're going to spend that back half making you successful in this strategy. We can lead you, we can show you, you just have to perform it every time.
If you want to be strong, you have to exercise or lift weights. You have to actually be disciplined enough to use the muscles. And if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
This could be the best thing you'll ever discover financially.
Thanks for joining us on this podcast, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Folks, if you like this, subscribe, share it with other people that you think might benefit from this content. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you, and bye for now.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
Thank you for listening to the Private Banking Strategies Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.